Are you one of the many who don't know exactly what these skills are because they never enter your barracks, you never see them, and you can never use them, and therefore never relate to a bunch of build recommendations that use them? That's fine. This video is for you.
Let the lesson begin.
Hey guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to touch on a topic that I hear a lot in my comments and such, and just people asking in general, and that has to do with fodder and how to best utilize fodder or take it into a perspective that you can best use it. For example, a build like this, right? We look at a +10 Veronica in the best case scenario. How can I, as a player who doesn't have access to these skills, make something similar to that work? That's what the topic of this video will do. I'm going to cover many skills and the budgeting options and how you can compartmentalize all this to come to your own good fodder and investment decisions going forward. One thing I want to say is that there is a lot of skills in Heroes, and I'm not going to cover every single skill in the game. So again, you are going to have to look at your own barracks and look at comparable skills, and does it work to accomplish what you need to do? A little bit of critical thinking will go a long way, but this is to get you on that track. So, let's do it. So, Veronica here. This is a common build I might recommend, and it's important to look at the best case scenario and then tailor your own expectations based on the barracks you have. As an F2P player, I obviously don't have that, the Veronica you see to the left there, and I have to make do with a comparable budget option. In fact, if you watch my replays, you'll see that I use a double attack speed solo, A and seal, Nanna with drive defense in the C. So I'm nowhere close to the power level of something like this on defense, and I completely can relate to you guys in telling you that even though that is the best case scenario, you need to make do with comparable options. So just as an example, of course, here is a Nanna with attack speed push 4, a palm staff, drive attack in the C, and you can start using blade session in the seal, that's actually pretty good, but attack speed solo 3 as a seal basically to get you going. Now, this is to kind of get you going, right? So ARD attack speed gives you effectively 10 attack, 10 speed on most defense teams, but you might have attack speed push 4 in the barracks, you might have attack speed solo 4 in the barracks, you might have attack speed catch 4, which is also up and coming. It's going to be as a formal option soon that you can get from the skills, or you might just have an extra claw that you have nothing to do with, or potentially in the future we get even more options for attack speed catch 4. So you see where I'm going with this? Essentially, you got to make sure you look at, what does the A skill accomplish? Attack and speed. What comparable budget skills or premium budget skills do I have that are comparable to this? So an attack speed push 4. As simple as this is, as simple as I make this look, a lot of people say, I don't have ARD attack speed 4, or I don't have ARD attack speed 3, what do I do? Well, the simple answer is just use a slightly weaker version that kind of gets the job done. Attack speed push 4, for example, or attack speed push 3 even, which is kind of, you'd have to fodder Petrine, but something is better than nothing. And I use some really budget skills, which again, you'll see in my replay videos where I'm going with this. Tanking and carrying an offense is a similar kind of dilemma here. So let's take this pretty premium bike here. He's not +10, but very strong build here. Has distant counter, no follow-up, pulse smoke, and a lot of people might not have that. I'd say distant counter obviously isn't irreplaceable, and you should consider a different tank that can use distant counter without that A slot. And we have a few options now, Ike, Ryoma, and even Xander or Camu, whatever. Just think about the actual fodder itself. No follow-up. I am actually a person who has literally a single no follow-up in my barracks, and that sucks, but I make do with alternative options. Pulse smoke. Again, premium skill, what do I do? So again, think about maybe an alternative unit, think about alternative fodder that you might have. Something like this Hawkeye is actually pretty good, compares to Brave Ike fairly well, because he has stats in the right places. He has a kind of slightly different role, but at the end of the day, he's still a green axe infantry that you can merge up. Low attack defense in the weapon as a refine is good. I feel like Hawkeye is a bit ignored here, and Wrath is already on both Astrum and Ninja Hannah as potential fodder. plus attack smoke again. So accessible fodder other than distant counter. So if you don't have distant counter, then obviously you should choose a tank that doesn't need distant counter in the A slot and make that work in a different way. But you see where I'm going with this. Like, essentially, Hawkeye has a slaying weapon with low attack defense. He fires off his glimmers every single hit, scales really well with the low attack defense effect, and you got yourself a fairly decent tank option. Maybe not as good as Bike, but it's fairly comparable when you consider merges and just like the sort of options you might have. That's what I want you thinking about. You know, like, I don't have Bike, I don't have that fodder. That's fine. There's a different way to do it. So this is just something to think about. But to make it even more kind of break it down for you folks, I wanted to also chart this out for you, which uses, let's say, something like this. A kind of small ranking here on skills and how you can approach different fodder scenarios. I would say by now that most of us, if you've been playing a few months, will eventually land on some sort of fodder here and there. And I'm using the attack speed kind of like comparison, but let's say I recommended like ARD attack defense. So attack defense push, attack defense solo, those are all comparisons. Attack defense catch, attack defense ideal, whatever. Those are all comparisons that you just need to level down and budget yourself until you get better premium skills, and then go to that. As someone who's been using attack speed solo Nanna with like drive defense for a while, it works fine. You know, like, sure, if I had an ARD attack speed 3, my defense results would probably be a lot better. But at the end of the day, I still managed to get perfect defense rewards like 90% of the time. So in reality, you don't need to feel like you're missing out just because you don't have the premium stuff or feel obliged to summon for them. Because at the end of the day, you probably shouldn't. So like again, I said, you know, premium seasonal fodder at the top, very difficult off legendaries or something more recent. Then you have like slightly worse options, attack speed push 4, attack speed solo 4, whatever. And then like your super budget off of 3 4-star unit HP attack. Obviously it comes out of Volbar, and I use this actually on a lot of units. I give it to my dancers, I give it to, let's say, a healer who just doesn't really have a good A slot right now. Like, that's actually fine, totally fine to do. And with merges, flowers, and the right team comp, you can make that work. Moving on though, just to give you even more thoughts here. Again, I'm not listing every skill, guys. I'm not listing every skill. This is just to get you going. Because if I was to list every skill, this video would likely be, you know, very long, and it would lose the meaning. This is to get you thinking about how you can like approach more budget fodder and make these builds work that I always showcase in many videos. It's just to get you thinking. So again, best fodder right now for carries, you know, like null follow-up, null siege drop. As someone who doesn't have either of those, I start working my list down. I start using like Spurn. I use even Quick Repose 3, which I didn't show here. Could be pretty good. Mystic Boost, who knows? Like, you just gotta think about your options. What can be slightly comparable? Like Spurn is gonna be better than, let's say, Wrath. But Wrath isn't terrible either because it can give you some player phase utility there with the extra, you know, cooldown acceleration at the beginning of your turn. Someone like Hawkeye, let's say, who's using Glimmer, and he's under 75% at the beginning of the turn, Glimmer is ready on your player phase, which makes your player phase better. So it's not always that bad. Or just even a low attack defense, you know, making your tank bulkier, which is on more units, but you know, that's how you got to think about what helps your unit do its role almost as good as, let's say, the best options. And if it's almost as good, most of the time you can get through difficult matches with good preparation, with good planning, and then executing that exactly as you need to. Lastly here, I want to cover the C skills as well. So again, I don't have joint drives attack, I don't have joint drive speed, I don't have pulse smoke. That's actually completely fine. You know, I use drive attack, drive defense myself, and on many units actually, and it works well, it works fine. Like, for example, my dancers would be using like drive attack seal or drive attack C, stacking those drive attacks, so the other more combat units, like let's say Ninja Lin or even my carry, will just get a little bit more of an oomph to succeed in their role. And for tanks, of course, attack smoke has done me wonders actually in many matches. You would think like, oh, you can bring sabotage attack or Tamari or something, but that's not always a good idea anyways if you run into like restore traps or just rally traps that remove those buffs anyways. But with attack smoke, you kind of like keep reapplying those debuffs, or you apply them in a controlled manner where it really helps your tank still do a decent job with something as budget as attack smoke. Okay, guys, so that really covers everything I want to talk about in this video. Again, this is just a way for you to compartmentalize, whatever, everything down into how do I fodder, how do I approach, super premium builds like this or whatever, and this one, for example, how do I like level it down to make it more comparable? Choose a more budget unit, choose more budget skills. Some things can't be replaced, like Distant Counter or Wrathful Staff or whatnot, but there's still even budget options for that, okay? There's still even decent options. For example, you could run, Distant Counter tank that doesn't need Distant Counter in the A. You can run a healer who's maybe just running Wrathful but not Dazzle, and then give them a different B skill. So again, it's fine. You lose out some way, but it's still going to be an effective defense or an effective carry as long as you think about more budget options and don't just take everything at face value and assume that you need that to succeed. You really don't. Budget options work fine. F2P, by the way. Thank you guys for watching. That's going to conclude today's video. If you want to leave me your thoughts in the comments below, you still have questions, I will try to look at them and answer them myself. Give video a thumbs up, turn that thing blue. If you made it this far, I love you all, and even consider supporting the channel in the Patreon in the description below, Twitch as well, or YouTube. There's all different ways. Love you all. You guys keep this stuff coming. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
It's over.